Hi folks. Well, the main gear shaft broke on my Parkzone J-3 Cub at Donovan's indoor fly on Sunday. Just a little rough landing. Well, the broken shaft is stuck in the propeller where it typically screws on. Well, several folks commented at the time that the shaft can't be removed from the prop and only a new shaft was the choice. So hence, the challenge began. Plus, I could not wait for a new part as I had a demo to fly next week also. So this is how I fixed mine. While I was in the Marines, we had to, especially in Vietnam, come up with innovative ways to continue to fly our missions when the jets were shot through or broken. Some were extreme, but they worked, so never say never. Here we go. I could have ground down a bit of the plastic and removed the shaft, but I decided to do it this way and not make it weak. I'd also like to see a new shaft or a couple supplied with the kits like the propellers, but I guess that's wishing for too much. Unless you know how to use super glue, and especially thin super glue, don't even attempt this. Well, you know, having a drill press is not a bad deal for lots of things, and I use mine a lot. Maybe you could borrow one. You could also use a very small vise with smooth heads. I got my drill press at Menards for only 79 bucks. Nothing fancy, but it's very handy. And I used the smallest drill bit I had and simply installed it in a chuck inverted and pressed the pin into the soft plywood, giving plenty of support to the prop. It worked really well, as you'll see now. Okay, use the soft wood. Just push straight in like this. And there's our broken pin right there on the bottom. Now I'll just pull it out. Okay, the prop's fixed. Let's remove the other part of the shaft from the motor housing. What I'm going to do, instead of taking everything apart, I'm just going to cut the cowl off. That's all you need to do is just cut this cowl off right here. This shaft, this gear is also pressed on. The shaft is broken off right at the threads up here. And also back here, this is a nut. Now what I'm going to try and do is, because there's a lot of threads back here, I'm going to see if I can just simply unscrew this nut and turn that whole shaft around and make it work. You know, hang on to this back one like this and then turn the gear up front. There's little tiny washers on there, so make sure you get them. There's one on each side. If you cut out the front like I did here, this whole shaft now will just simply pull straight out like that, and there's one of the little washers. This is my tip for putting a very, very tiny amount of super glue if you don't have the tip anymore. Most of us have lost the tip or it's plugged up. I usually take a very, very tiny drop. This is the thin stuff, so it really goes a long way. And just a tiny drop on the end of the knife blade. Then if I want to apply it to something, just very a small amount, all you have to do is touch that little bit right there. And then of course if you hit it with the accelerator, it's going to dry right away. And that's how I do it. So I've chamfered and roughened the shaft up a little bit with the side cutters where the gear will mesh and the prop will fit. Well, then I slid the gear on with a tiny drop of Zap Thin CA and then placed the shaft back into the motor mount. You know, Zap Thin or Mercury Adhesives Thin will easily hold this very low power setup just fine. I'm sure others will too, but I have my faith in those. Okay, what you want to do is go ahead and put it back in the slot. Now, to get that in there, you'll just have to rotate this back and forth, just rub it back and forth until it goes in, because the chamfer's on the shaft. Now, once it's in the middle there, everything will rotate nicely. Because the broken shaft is shorter and there are no threads on this end, I cut the nut in half and glued it on also. Again, thin CA is necessary. If you're not careful, a drop will melt right through the fuselage, get in the shaft or the gears. And that's not good. Trust me, I'm a doctor. Okay, let's test it. A little tiny drop of Vaseline on there. Let's put the prop on it. The prop turns this way, so that means the shaft has to be screwed on the other way. So you just want to screw this back on. This is how the propeller goes back on. I put a dab of CA on anyway, as I will replace this whole unit when the new parts come, so it's not a problem. And of course with these propellers, I always amazing goop the spinner on because one, it makes the propeller stronger at the center, and two, I don't lose the spinner very much. So this will do for emergency. So now I can have to wait for the shaft to get here from Parkzone, and in the meantime I can still fly. Here we go. Well, it looks like it's doing pretty good. Here we go, folks. Works fine. Well, that worked out okay for being in a pinch.